Hello friends, welcome back to the bench. Thank you very much for joining me. Our patient is a 2009 Outback, and let me get the message from the customer. We have a note over here. So the code is P0030. Front oxygen circuit, heater circuit is faulty. In this case, I think it says that it's low or high. In either case, the oxygen sensor is not getting proper heating signal, which means the oxygen sensor doesn't work properly because it requires heating to actually detect the oxygen, right? It needs to be at the proper temperature. Also, engine RPM surging up and down 100 to 200 RPM while keeping a constant speed, also has low idle RPM. Yes, so this is explained by a faulty reading from the oxygen sensor. This is front oxygen sensor, which means the first one. So yeah, if it's getting so reading from that sensor will impact the mixture, right? So right now your car is running lean. That's why it's at low RPM. It's not getting enough fuel because this oxygen sensor is reading too low or too high, probably too high. Hang on, if you read, no, it's reading too low. That's why the mixture is, or the other way around. Either case, if there's any fault with the front oxygen sensor, then yes, you will get all kinds of issues with the engine idling or power or stuff, because based on that reading we're adjusting the mixture. So now, if that happens, what is the culprit? So number one, the MCU, one of those little pins over here, is gonna generate the signal. The signal going to the heater is not just putting 12 volts and it heats up, because we need the oxygen, the heater circuit to be controlled. Sometimes it needs to be warmer, sometimes it needs to be cooler. It probably also depends on the ambient temperature and the coolant temperature and all that kind of stuff. So it is a waveform generated by the MCU. Now from there, that signal is gonna go through, if only I can get the proper focus there. Okay, this is the line, right? So first, this resistor should be 10K, and it connects the signal to ground. It is 10K, beautiful. Then through this resistor, which should be 1K, and it is 1K, beautiful. We're going to the base of this transistor. Now this transistor should not be shorted between the gate. We have 40K between the gate and collector emitter 29K. I think that's good. We can actually compare that. Let's compare that to the other one. Just so happens that I have the replacement in the shop, so we're gonna send 2 ECMs back to the customer, but we're also going to try to repair this one just for the fun of it. So this is a working one, right? So let's do the same. So base collector 40, yeah, and collector emitter around 30. So this is normal. So typically when you get these issues on an ECM, usually this transistor is either shorted or not functioning. Now shorted transistor is easy to spot, easy to confirm, sure. But non-working one, it's a little more tricky, because the question is, does it actually open when you supply a voltage to the gate or the base, because I think this is just the regular PNP or NPN power transistor. It's K3225, right? If you're curious, you can check. It doesn't really matter, because what we're gonna do is we're just going to replace it, not with the new one. I don't have these in stock, or at least I don't think I do, but I have plenty of boards for parts. So we're gonna replace this transistor, and we're gonna clone this ECM to the replacement, and we're gonna send 2 ECMs back. If this is the problem of the transistor, right? Which probably it isn't. I think it's the MCU problem, because there are a few possibilities. Number one, check those 2 resistors, right? Obviously they need to be working properly for this signal to be there. Second, the transistor itself, right? If it's faulty, then obviously it's not gonna work. Third, what can be broken is the output of the MCU. On the output of the MCU, there's still going to be a little transistor that also can be damaged the same way as the output stage would. I'm gonna replace the solder with leaded because who knows, maybe it's the issue of the crumbly solder, who knows. Probably not, but it's an old solder, so let's just replace it. 375, not quite hot enough. It doesn't want to soak in properly, so let's just help it with hot air. Okay, we got new solder, or we got old solder removed. Let's put some new solder here. Okay, that's nice leaded solder, and a little bit on the pads, and we're gonna use hot air to replace it. Okay, so this transistor goes to trash. Now let's get the donor, and let's remove the donor, and let's put the replacement on. Actually, because it's catching, because it's a little sticky. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna heat the board first, so it's ready to start accepting new component. Then I'm gonna place the component. The component will be cold, so the solder will not be flowing, but it reduces the time needed to flow, and it reduces the heat exposure to the component. In some cases it matters. Not really in this case, because it's a transistor. It can withstand heat just fine. It's built to do so. It doesn't want to float. There is it flowing? You gotta make sure that, because it will hold even if just the top layer of solder melts a little bit, it'll hold, right? But you want to make sure that the entire solder melted. Oh yeah, like this, right? And it just freely moves, right? It doesn't catch there, right? That ensures that it's gonna hold and conduct properly. Now we do need a lot of current over here, right? On this line. The heater, I don't know what the power of the heater is actually, but I would expect that, I don't know, 10 amps, maybe 20 amps. I don't know, it could be a few hundred watts, right? So you do want those connections to be solid. You don't want it just hanging by a thread. Okay, so if this was a problem, the problem should go away. The probability that this is the problem, this was the problem, is rather low. Probably, I would think that it's MCU that is responsible. On the other hand, if the problem doesn't go away on the original, right? So this one, and you put the replacement in, and the problem still doesn't go away. Well, that way we have eliminated the ECM being a culprit here, right? However, the customer did confirm that it's not a cables issue, it's not an issue of the wiring, but you know, mistakes can be made, right? Also, conductivity is a tricky thing. In some cases, or actually in most cases, when we talk about the current flow, we don't necessarily mean just the connection is there, right? That the cable is good because connection is there. Now, have you tried perhaps extending your HDMI signal, your HDMI cable, right? And you get the extensions and you put like 6 of them together, right? Something like that, especially those crappy ones. And what happens? There's no video signal on the other side, right? But if you check the connection of each pin, right, with the LED tester or something, you will notice that every LED lights up, right? So it should work. But no, it will not. So it's not just about confirming that the connection between one thing and the other thing is there. That's why, you know, when you connect the battery, right, to the starter with tiny wire, right, you turn the ignition, and what happens? It just like kind of sort of cranks, or maybe you will hear a click, right, and it'll die, right? Nothing happens. And of course that little cable is probably going to burn. So the same with this circuit, right? You confirmed that the connection is there. Very good. That's awesome. But it might not be good enough to actually transmit all that power. So the signal is there perhaps, right? And the the signal, the waveform is going to the sensor, but it's not enough, right? It doesn't actually heat up properly. That's why the ECM perhaps is that's why ECM is adjusting the mixture, because it thinks that that reading from the sensor is okay, but it is not. That's why the RPM is low and all that kind of stuff, right? The car is shaking maybe, or doesn't have power and stuff like that. Yeah, that could explain it. So that's why we're gonna send back 2 ECMs just to eliminate that, because otherwise it's just a guessing game, right? It could be, doesn't have to be, all that. Alright, we've got the original. Let's put it back. I actually recently had a issue. It's the most difficult issues to diagnose are the issues where there are multiple culprits, right? So what I had, what was the problem on my car, was the converter, right? So I got the replacement, a crappy replacement. I paid like $160 on eBay, something like that, which I was warned not to do, rightfully so, but I can't afford a $1,000 part, and I just want to pass emissions, and that's it. And I was experiencing sudden power losses, and that could be explained by a faulty converter, right? A crappy converter will cause power loss, but it shouldn't be intermittent. You should permanently have low power. But I just kind of figured, yeah, it's probably just a converter, because I do get codes for the bank efficiency, right? So both banks. So I started looking around there and checking how it's sealed and like all kinds of stuff, right? And it took a while before I started thinking that maybe there's more than one problem, right? Because sometimes it's not like the car is limited to one issue. Sometimes you have few issues happening at the same time. Some are, some symptoms are a result of one issue, the others are the result of other issues, right? So my power loss was not because of the converter. So yeah, converter was faulty, sure. But then I started doing all kinds of stuff with the converter and just taking the results of that as all the other symptoms as a result of that. So if the car suddenly regained its power, then okay, I tightened the bolt or I changed something and that fixed it. So I thought, yeah, so that fixed it, so it confirms that it's a problem with the exhaust, right? Anywhere from the exhaust manifold all the way to the tailpipe, right? Problem is somewhere there. But no, that was a coincidence. That was a pure coincidence, because I also had misfires. That was the problem of a power loss, or that was the reason for power loss, and timing issues as well. So diagnosing anything is hard in general, and sometimes you have to consider that you only have half the picture or only part of the picture, and and you have to sometimes just think outside the box, right? Or sometimes you just have to just kind of reset, right? Just forget all the other assumptions you made along the way. This is also very common in software engineering as well, where you just make some kind of assumption early on and then you just keep it throughout the process, and the process of debugging or diagnosing something becomes very very difficult because you made that one assumption at the very beginning of the process. And sometimes you have to just think, okay, let's forget everything we know, let's start from the very beginning and confirm everything once again. And that's when you find that the whole issue was very simple, but the fact that you made an assumption early on, that's what caused the process to be so difficult. It didn't need to be difficult if you didn't make that one assumption. Okay, so this one goes back. I gotta mark it as original. Let's put the sticker on it. And this is our copy. We have half an hour. Okay, not a lot of work in the shop this weekend, which is good because I'm really tired. But I'm out of car. They wouldn't even do the oil change on mine because the timing chain is clicking like crazy, which it didn't yesterday or the day before, but today my wife took it for a oil change, and the mechanic said, or the guy said that no, we don't want to work on the car that has clicking timing chain, which is fair. So now I'm kind of considering, can we actually afford having two cars? But can we get by having only one car? So the answer to the first question is no. No, we can't really afford having two cars. It's been the case for a while, but mainly because I didn't have to put too much money into my car. But just considering the insurance, it's here when I had it in Wyoming, that was not a big deal. That was like $50 a month. But in Georgia, that's closer to $170, $180 a month. So I don't think I can afford having two cars, and I have final two payments left on the Chevy, my wife's car. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna do because I do have to drive to the office every day. Right, no way around it. I talked to the boss and he said I can perhaps take like maybe a week, maybe even couple weeks of remote work until I get my car fixed. So at least it's good to have that option, sure. But 2 weeks that doesn't save me. And I know what you're thinking. Well, can't you just get a remote job? And come on, nobody's hiring, especially not for remote jobs. And I'm getting a bit too old for chasing stuff like that. So no. So can we get by without having two cars? Probably not. Can we afford having two cars? No. So you can understand what situation I'm in. So it kind of stresses me out. I have to figure it out. And there's not nothing left, There's because normally, when the unexpected bill comes in, right? You have to spend money on something or some monthly commitment, right? Then usually, I think, okay, so I have to do that. So what am I not gonna buy this month, or what am I gonna give up on, right? Because that money's gotta come from somewhere, right? It's not gonna come from a credit card. I don't even have one. I don't want one. But at this point, I just kind of cut back on everything I could. I mean, not everything I could, To be honest, I don't have to smoke, right? Cigarettes are really expensive nowadays. I should quit just because of I can't really afford to be smoking. I like my beer, which also I don't have to drink beer, right? So those two things are kind of left that I could that I could just cut back on, but still doesn't really that doesn't really cover that much, Although smoking, yeah, I spend a lot of money on cigarettes, and it's not good for you, right? Not only you're paying a lot of money to smoke, but also you're just kind of hurting your health, which might become expensive later down the line, right? Some hospital bills and stuff like that. So yeah, I know it's stupid, but stupid is what stupid does. So I'm at this point where I can't really find any like reasonable cuts that I can do so I can afford having two cars. It's not like I can take a bus or anything, and even if I could, I was thinking about it. Some people they live closer, so they take a bus to work, which is great, sure. But one thing that you have to consider is time, right? Oh, I see, not responding. I messed up. So sure, it's probably cheaper, but you don't have the same flexibility. Sometimes I usually wake up at the same time, but sometimes I just will take a little longer in the morning to just get ready for work and stuff, right? And driving, I don't have an issue with that, right? It's not a problem. I'll just leave 10 minutes later. It's not an issue. I'll still gonna be at work way before I have to, because usually the first meeting is around 10 o'clock. Sometimes 8:30 or something like that, but usually it's at 10 o'clock. And I get there by 6:30. So if I get there by 6:45 instead of 6:30, then it's not a big deal. So that's flexibility, and I don't have to deal with crowded buses. I don't have to deal with buses being late or something like that, right? That's also added stress, a lot of stuff. So maybe I could save a little bit on buses if that was an option, but there's also downsides of that, right? So if you have only one job and you just all your day is just getting to work and coming back from work and the rest of the day is yours, that's fine, but that's not my situation. I have a lot of stuff to do after work, and and I have to make the day only has so many hours in it. So, but it's either case it's a moot point because there are no buses that come here, right? I don't have an option of taking a bus. All right, clear the chip, program the chip. Hope it's not too depressing. This isn't the this isn't the ECM and the rent video. This is just a repair video. So I don't mean to bum you out, but the times are tough right now, and they're about to get tougher, much tougher. So if you think it's bad now, just wait even less than a year. It's gonna get a lot worse. So I'm trying to prep for that, right? That's why, could I just buy another car? Sure I could. I have enough cash to buy another car for, well, as I said, I was looking for something like $3,500, right? So not a huge money, not a huge investment, but still, now I have to, get rid of the old car. I have to register a new car, go through all that stuff. I gotta get new insurance and all that stuff. It's also a lot of hassle, a lot of time. I gotta do emissions on the new car, the used car. Maybe I won't get emissions on that car, because let's be honest, if you're getting it for $3,500, do you expect that some issues will be there and it's gonna have at least 200,000 miles on it, right? Well, maybe you can get like 160, 180, but that's it, right? So it's also another problem, another issue to now fix the replacement car. So I'm thinking, I can't really afford two cars, and that would definitely help my budget a little bit if I don't have to pay for gas in another car. I don't have to pay the second insurance. I don't have to maintain the car. I don't have to do emissions. I don't have to do registrations and all that kind of stuff, right? Paying the tag and all that stuff. So I'm thinking that would be good, but can I get by with just one car? Because that's gonna just basically, when I go to the office, then my wife is kind of trapped in the house, right? And the kid can take a bus, right? No, not a problem, but I think he's starting to take a bus next week, so that's awesome. So I could pull it off, probably, but it kind of scares me. And also I don't want to do it to my wife, that keep her trapped in the house all day. I mean all day, as long as I'm at work, right? Tough decisions, tough times, and life is expensive. No way around it. Alrighty, so that's a clone. Let's put a sticker. So we'll see if the transistor replacement was the problem, or if the transistor was at fault. The replacement will help it, so we'll see. If it didn't, then use the clone, put the clone in, and see if the problem went away. If it went away, perfect. That means the MCU is at fault on the original one. If the problem didn't go away, well, it's not ECM related. That's how we eliminate it. There's no better way. Alrighty, that concludes all the repairs this weekend. That means Sunday off. My first Sunday off. Well, we'll see, because now I have to figure out all that stuff with the car and how to get to work on Monday. So it's not exactly gonna be resting, but I've been worse. I'll be fine. Alrighty, thank you guys very much for watching. I appreciate you guys, and I shall see you in the next one.